McDermott.
Mr. Speaker, I have a floor amendment to offer.
Mr. Clerk, have copies of the floor amendment been distributed to the members?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, copies of floor amendment number 14 have been distributed.
Representative McDermott, you have
Mr.
a
Speaker,
motion?
I move for the adoption of the floor amendment.
Floor amendment number 14, is it seconded? Representative Ward.
Speaker, I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Representative McDermott.
Mr. Speaker, thank you so very much. I realize that this may be a little redundant, and we are in the last legs of our long journey, Mr. Speaker. I have tried everything I can to give the majority an opportunity not to move forward with this measure that I believe, the underlying measure, unconstitutional, which I'll get into when we speak on the main measure. But the measure before us is the task force similar to the one that was passed earlier this year. However, it's different in the fact that it adds the director of DBED in charge of the task force, vice the head of the law school, and it adds an additional member of the clergy. This is a more balanced approach, I think. I think it takes into consideration the folks who have been here outside for the past 2 weeks sharing their voice with us. And it gives us an opportunity to do something that's constitutional or do something other than an overtly unconstitutional act. So I have spoken to leadership before the session, and I wanted to find a third way. This is a third way. It's a positive, affirmative action. It is movement forward. It is a solution. It is not just carping and being negative. I am offering a way out, if you will, to do something. So, Mr. Speaker, with that, I ask for the humble consideration of the body.
Thank you very much, Representative. Further discussion, Representative Fale.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in support.
In support, please proceed of the support of the amendment.
Mr. Speaker, for a moment, if we could all take a look at the gallery. For a moment, if we could take a look outside the gallery into the entry area into this chamber. We've seen what we're doing to the people of Hawaii, Mr. Speaker. You take a look. We have a red line that's dividing the community, a red line that's dividing families and the entire state as a whole, Mr. Speaker. And through the process of this division, we have not allowed other members, neighbor islands, to have the opportunity to speak, to have their opportunity to hear what this is all about, and to either accept or reject this, Mr. Speaker, given the truncated special session that the governor has handed down to us. I rise in support because we need to do what this amendment would do. As it talks about this issue being the most contentious issue of this generation, therefore the legislature further finds that rather than rushing to a decision on the issue of same-sex marriage in a truncated special session, it would be more prudent to convene a task force to study the potential impacts of same-sex marriage in Hawaii before taking any legislative action. The purpose of this act is to create a task force to study the social, economic, and religious impacts of legalizing same-sex marriage in Hawaii. This body passed a measure to that effect, Mr. Speaker, and it was never given an opportunity to do what it was supposed to do. I remember the meeting that we had with the Attorney General and the Governor, and in that meeting, Mr. Speaker, the first words out of the Attorney General's mouth was that we needed to pass this so that people from out of state could come and get married here because it would be good for the economy of the state of Hawaii. Those were the first words out of his mouth, Mr. Speaker. Now, my job is to represent people who live in the state of Hawaii. I'm not going to pass laws here so that it will be a matter of convenience or good for somebody outside of the state of Hawaii. My first priority has to be the people here. And if this measure, which we have seen the physical manifestations of the division that it's putting us through, why not make the study? Why not take an opportunity to make sure that what we're doing is the right thing, and not so that we can put extra money in the pocket of the state coffers, Mr. Speaker? That's the wrong reason to do this. Growing up here, my parents said, one of the last reasons you should do something is for $1. And if that's what's being thrown out to us, well, we're going to get $270 million or so. Is this worth $270 million, Mr. Speaker? the divisions with family, with communities, and in the state, is that worth $270 million? Is that the number one reason why we're doing this? As the Attorney General threw out to us in the meeting that we had. Is the relationship I have with my brothers, my sisters, is that worth $500 billion? The answer is no, Mr. Speaker. The answer is no. And until we know exactly what those impacts are going to be, I say it is wrong to push this measure through without knowing what it's going to do. And the reason, the overall reason is we need to get people benefits for this coming tax season. That's why we have to do it now. Is it worth it? Is this worth it? If this body feels that the wedges we are driving through the hearts of our communities, Mr. Speaker, for the extra money so that people can get some extra dollars this next legislative tax season, or so that the coffers can get a little more money over the economic benefits, I submit to you, Mr. Speaker, that's one of the worst reasons to rush this measure. And for those reasons, Mr. Speaker, this amendment is something that the body should consider to make sure that we understand exactly what it is we're doing so we can remove the pain, we can remove the wedges, and act in the best interests of the people and the state as a whole. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Further discussion,
Mr.
Representative
Speaker?
Ward, followed by Representative Brower. Representative Ward, followed by Representative Brower.
Speaker, I rise in support.
In support, please proceed.
Speaker, I made a confession during the 55 hours of testimony that I came out of academia, and as a freshman, I was very, very disappointed in the way we do business here. We don't make decisions on the basis of data. We don't make decisions on the basis of evidence. We don't make decisions on the basis of facts. It's more opinion. It's more case, you know, a corollary from here.
Representative Ward, I apologize. I do not
You're
mean
not catching my drift?
I'm catching your drift, but you cannot infer the thought process of our committee members on Judiciary or Finance. That's your, if you recognize that or believe that, that's your own thought.
Okay.
But you cannot infer their intent or their thought process.
In Indonesian, they say, justru karena itu, precisely because of what you said, is why we need this resolution. It says, let's keep score on what is going on with same-sex marriage in Hawaii. In that testimony, the tax department didn't even know how to quantify what civil unions have cost. That's loosey-goosey, Mr. Speaker. This resolution says, let's do it. Let's be evidence-based. As I was interrupted in the Finance Committee, you've interrupted me in the Finance Judiciary hearing. I was trying to commend a nurse who was doing, quote, evidence-based practices. And I said, I envy you for doing evidence-based practices. That's what we need to do, Speaker. And if you can prove me otherwise, I'm not making a condemning notion of this body, but I'm telling you the way we do business, it's too loosey-goosey. It's not evidence-based. This resolution gives us some factual, empirical, evidence-based to say, here's what we've done, here's what the scores look like. That's all it is, Mr. Speaker, nothing more.
You're directly on point. I agree. You're directly on point.
Thank you very much.
Thank
That's
you,
all I have to
Representative
say.
Ward. Thank you very much. Representative Brower.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The representative from Laie talked about
Representative Brower, in support or in opposition of the floor amendment?
in opposition, Mr. Speaker. Thank
please
you.
proceed.
Previously, we heard about division that's being created, and I'd ask members to think, who is creating this division? Who's the roadblock to inclusion on the underlying bill? Who is keeping someone else from receiving a privilege? Who is creating the division on this issue? And who is trying to create unity, inclusion, and equality? Mr. Speaker, let the legislature vote.
Thank you, Representative. Further discussion, Representative McDermott.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, I would like to include the remarks from the gentleman from Hawaii Kai for his sage wisdom, and the representative from Laie for his passion. And it's been remarkable to watch him develop as an orator. I'm very proud of him. He is a bright star.
Your request is so ordered, Representative.
Thank you so much. Just briefly, who's causing the division? We are, Mr. Speaker. We are. This is a remedy to an unconstitutional provision we are pushing out. The power invested in this body comes from who, Mr. Speaker? The people. The people in 1998 spoke. And I'll get to that when we speak to the main bill, Mr. Speaker. But this is a positive alternative solution. We are causing the division. We are causing it because we're taking an action. They feel that they were tricked, a bait and switch. We are causing it, not them. They're reacting because they think they got shafted. That's why there's so much angst and anger out there, clearly. So, Mr. Speaker, this resolution is a third way. We can take a positive, affirmative action with this document and say that we did something, but we didn't do anything bad or unconstitutional. Make no mistake, Mr. Speaker, this body created the division. Thank you.
Thank you, Thank you very much, Representative.
Mr.
Representative
Speaker?
Fale, a second time followed by Representative Har. I'm sorry, actually, I apologize, Representative Fale. I'm going to recognize Representative Har because she has not spoke on this measure, or I'm sorry, the floor amendment yet. Representative Har.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of the floor amendment.
In support of the floor amendment, please
Mr.
proceed.
Speaker, I rise in support of the floor amendment because I think there's one issue here that was really overlooked during the 57+ hours of testimony. The issue was the economic impact of what same-sex marriage would mean to the state of Hawaii. Now, we had Mr. LaCroix talk about what the impact, the positive impact could be, but we also had Dr. Min Pang, also a Chinese economist from the University of Hawaii, who also talked about the negative impact same-sex marriage could have to our economy. Mr. Speaker and members, the fact of the matter is this: our economy is built on tourism. And even a 1% decline in tourism from the Asia market will have a significant impact on our general fund and will offset any gains that were proposed by Mr. LaCroix. For those reasons, Mr. Speaker, this is a very timely floor amendment. We must understand the economic impact. And quite frankly, I'm no longer a member of the Finance Committee, but I was quite surprised that the Finance Chair and many of the Finance members overlooked and just pretty much seemed to ignore Dr. Min Pan's...
Again, Representative
Well,
Har,
again, Mr.
I don't
Mr.
know
Speaker,
if the Finance Chair and the
Mr.
members
Speaker,
overlooked.
the fact of the matter
You can't
is we
infer.
have in fact moved forward with this bill. And so all I can say is, based on moving forward with the bill, we have not done a thorough analysis on what the negative impacts could be. And again, even a 1% decrease from the Asian market, tourism market, will have a significant impact on our tourism economy, our general fund, and more importantly, will offset any of the gains that were proposed by Mr. LaCroix. For those reasons, Mr. Speaker, I support this floor amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm sorry, Representative Saiki.
Have a brief recess.
Recess.